everyone. Thanks for joining us here at the 776 Villa during Cannes Lion 2026. We are back for our second marketing roundtable of the day. Really excited to have you all here. I'm Brandon Fox. I lead client services at Pearpop. And for today's session, we're going to be talking about how creator marketing is evolving beyond campaigns into these longer-term community building efforts between both brands and creators. We've got a really strong group of voices with really diverse perspectives joining me today, so really excited to hear what everyone thinks. Let's start off with a quick round of intros, if everyone can give your name and tell us where you're coming from and what you do.
Hello, I'm Lisa Braun. I am a creator, journalist, host, and I primarily create content around mental well-being.
Hi everyone, I'm Shannon Womack. I lead branding creative at Delta Airlines, and so I'm responsible for how the brand shows up across our marketing, our customer experience, and partnerships.
Great. I'm Caroline. I lead global brand marketing at Sparks. We're an experiential agency, global experiential agency. So we create the environments and spaces for creators to play, for brands to be themselves, and for places like Cannes.
And I'm Alexis Ohanian, a Reddit guy, but these days building 776, proud investor in Pearpop, and really focused on women's sports these days.
Awesome. Well, excited for the conversation today. I think y'all know the drill, but keeping this really informal and conversational, I've got a series of 5 questions we can get through. Feel free to just interject, build on each other. Wherever the conversation goes is great. So to start off, first question would love to hear from your unique POVs. What role do creators play in helping brands build that trust, build that relevance, and really authentic communities?
I mean, I think they play a massive role, and just even thinking about over the last 5 years, just the level of trust that has shifted away from brands and brand marketing into creators, I think is huge. From an authenticity perspective, we know that when creators are kind of telling our story, customers really respect that, and they drive a lot more relevance and growth for us than if it's just us that's telling the story on our own. So.
Yeah, I can build on that. We create, as I say, sort of brand experiences and the IRL experiences for brands, and for us using creators to not just show up and share, but actually host and tell those stories, and it really creates so much trust, because people don't know what to trust across the internet. They don't know what to trust across the media, all of those things. And actually, if you've got a place to convene those communities and those creators, actually that's where it happens. That's where it really gets quite quite impactful. Yeah.
I agree with both of what you guys were saying. Just as a creator, for an inspiring creator, talking about anything that you're genuinely passionate about will show and will lead to opportunities that are just incredible.
Yeah, I think one of the reasons why sports has gotten even more exciting for me the last 5 years is it's the athletes themselves, I mean, they're creators, especially in women's sports. They weren't getting paid professionally outside of tennis and maybe golf, so they had to build the muscle of being their own creative director and storyteller, and so they are incredible creators. And then once NIL happened in college, you start to see them being able to monetize it in a way that they couldn't before. And I just think you're only going to see more growth there, and the world with more and more sort of AI slop, I think having an authentic through line into why people should follow you, being you play this objective human thing, is a very valuable asset. Right? We'll still be playing. 4 years from now, even more people will be watching the World Cup than are today. Even though 4 years from now, there will be a pixel perfect way to fake an Mbappe goal. You would see a flawless, fraudulent AI version of an Mbappe goal, but it will not move anyone's soul because it never happened. And that is a defensibility to sport. And as the creators and athletes, I think they'll just grow in value and in relevance.
As the space matures, curious, what do you think is going to separate what we'd call a great creator partnership from something that's more transactional?
I mean, I think we are really trying to start to think less about kind of one-off creator partnerships, and also less about thinking about creators purely as a media buy or a media channel, and more into kind of the points that you all raised. Like, we understand that creators have powerful communities, and we know that the expectation isn't just that we're broadcasting a marketing message, but it's that we're giving you something in return. And so being able to lean into communities, being able to provide value to communities, I think that's a huge part of what's important from a creator perspective. And so it's thinking about the relationship in terms of what's the ecosystem and what's the platform that we can work to partner on, versus just thinking about it in terms of isolated campaigns. It's also, how can we shift our business and provide more value to creators? Are there certain benefits that they get? Are there certain programs that we offer? Are there ways that they can weigh in on the customer experience? Because we know that that voice is so important. So that's how we're thinking about it holistically.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I was adding to that. I think, it's that shift, isn't it, from buying reach to buying trust and authenticity. And especially, as, in communities like yours, you've got an amazing community of, of wellness and health and everything else. And it's actually, people aren't just looking at you as numbers anymore. They're looking at you as, you have a real movement behind you. And that's fantastic. And same with sports as well. It's, we're creating the fan zones for the World Cup at the moment over in the States, which is amazing. But creators are part of that, and they have to be part of that. And we're not buying reach. The World Cup has enough reach, right? Sure. But we're telling stories through them, and they're telling their own stories, and that becomes a really beautiful relationship between, brands and FIFA and those creators themselves. So it's a different kind of buy. It's not a media buy anymore, for sure.
Yeah, I can add, as a creator, never thought I would be known for dancing online, but here we are. And how lucky am I? But I often get a lot of messages from my community about how videos make other people feel seen. And the videos I make, I primarily are alone. So it's just so beautiful to see that I'm genuinely influencing someone to feel seen, and to be able to have conversations with brands, being here to see what your goals are, how we can just work together to create the best content, as this is constantly changing, is, I think, super important to have these conversations directly with brands and creators.
I can't add anything to that. That's great.
Enough said.
Yeah.
What does long-term success look like for both brands and creators?
I can answer as a creator. Long-term success for me is really genuinely connecting with my audience. I want to help people feel seen. We're all going through something. You know what you go through, I go through something. And if my videos can make you feel less alone, that's long-term success for me, and being able to partner with brands who have the same mission.
Mm-hmm. Shared alignment.
I think there's long-term success in terms of like traditional marketing metrics, of course. So reach, or obviously trying to get into more, how do we measure the impact on conversion or things like that. But I also think, if we're kind of to the point that you were making, Alexis, on just like the humanity angle, there's a feedback loop, because creators have such strong relationships with their communities. I think having that feedback loop of where are there other opportunities for us to be thinking from a brand perspective, how can we kind of improve our service, or what are other ways for us to think about our marketing approach. And I don't think we've mastered that yet, but figuring out how we can get that feedback loop, because I think the creator can really serve as a proxy for the communities that they're building content for.
Yeah, I also think, to both points, that that creators kind of help to close that belief gap, right? Uh-huh. So there's a brand sort of perception here, and and brands have been working very much on traditional metrics, and the world's moving, and AI is moving, and what we can measure is moving, and that's all become immensely brilliant and fast, but hugely complicated. And you've got kind of creators on this side who are engaging and really kind of inspiring their communities, and there's this kind of belief gap in between the two, where that trust is built, right? And I think that's where the long-term success is going to be, is like bridging that effectively.
Yeah, I'm always obviously ready to gas up women's sports fans in particular, but like there's such an interesting opportunity long term. Y'all's generation seems very happy to, like, genuinely happy, the sort of parasocial relationship, to have like their favorite creators win, right? It's celebrated in a way that I think as a millennial I didn't quite feel. This is very much a part of the culture, which is awesome. And then you have the sort of you have the winning nature of like getting deals, growing your business, all that stuff. And then sports adds this extra layer of like the objective winning of like you won the thing. And like, thankfully, I'm always grateful for the fact that like I don't have to work every day in front of millions of people like these athletes do, right? If you have a bad day at the office, no one really knows. But if you have a bad day at the office on a basketball court, everyone knows. And there's something that makes it then an even deeper kind of experience, because that is your warrior out there on the court, and that depth, I think, is the potential for a great partnership. As an example, we had track and field is notorious for not paying or taking way too long to pay athletes after an event. Could be months in some cases. And so for us, not only do we have record-breaking prize money, we also made sure to pay the athletes within seconds of the score being, approved and legitimized. And then Cash App was there to say, hey, great, we're going to deposit the money in their account. So literally after races, you've got these athletes, Masai Russell, who is a superstar, gold medalist, amazing 100-meter hurdler, and a great creator too. She's pointing it to the camera, showing the 60 grand in her bank account. Wow. And within the community of her fans, they all know how insane it is that she actually got paid, and got paid quickly. And again, Cash App's just sitting there, literally just doing their job. Like, that's just the business. There wasn't any extra work behind it, but it shows, hey, look, you are showing up in a meaningful way for these warriors that we love, these athletes, these heroes that we love. And I think there's a window of probably the next 5 years where, until we get to parity in a lot of women's sports, like, it's a chance for brands to step up alongside these creators, these athletes, and show, like, we are with you. And that fan base will follow it in a big way.
I would love to just add, with the support you said, something I am beyond grateful for is the support that I've received from strangers online, specifically with mental health, female health. I created a video that says, when you realize you survived, and it got over 2 million views. It was broad enough, but it made so many people cheer me on. So for any inspiring creator or brand to take a risk putting yourself out there, the online community, of course you'll have negative comments, but the positivity and support and encouragement is unexpectedly very motivating.
I love that. Love that for our world.
We need more of that.
Looking ahead, curious, switching the script a little bit over to AI, where do you think AI has the biggest opportunity to strengthen relationships between brands, between creators, and between communities?
I think AI is kind of a bit double-edged, right? Sure. So I think that AI is giving us an enormous amount of like really rich data and insight, and it's also really good at predicting things, and we can personalize stuff, and we can make things more efficient and all of those sorts of things. And I think that's great. I also think that, and surprisingly so actually, that it's actually also forcing us back to human and IRL and all of those sorts of things. And I think if you look at Cannes this week, I was pleasantly surprised, but very surprised about the lack of screens that you have on any of the activations. Like, no one's using a touch screen, no one's using an iPad, no one's using, like, everyone's like playing with stuff, and actually that's because of AI, and that's great, and I think AI will strengthen all of those experiences, but not necessarily on the front line of it. It's allowing creators to, post within minutes or seconds, rather than, kind of doing the roundup reel the next week and things like that. And so you're kind of, and as you say, it's that real time, it's that real time reactions and everything else. And that's just beautiful. But as I say, I think it's making us question ourselves and the value of having a creator in a room and in a community and bringing that community together. And I think that's quite, I find that fascinating from a behavioural humanity kind of point of view. So
I agree. I think AI will definitely make the value of human experiences more important. But in terms of how it will strengthen the relationship between brands and creators and their audiences, I think it's that it unlocks so much scale. So as a brand, you have certain audiences that you want to deepen your relationship with, and there are limitations on how much you can do that because of, constraints that exist in terms of the capabilities that you have. But with AI, you can create numerous different versions of messages. You can create way more content than you'd be able to create without it. And so I think that's a way that it can strengthen relationships.
Yeah. Taste will matter even more because it's so easy to make the stuff, and our feeds are already and will continue to be flooded by the slop. And you can tell the difference too between someone who is using this technology to escape having to think or escape having to have taste or make a decision. And I think that will just mean more tasteless sort of crap, which is annoying, but it rewards the folks who are actually using this well and now using it as a superpower, like you said. And I think it's all I get pitched so many of there was an era, they're not really getting pitched as much, but there was an entire era of the avatar generation. And there's companies that have had success building it seems, but it's interesting because most of the creators I talk to have very good reasons why they would never want to do this. Even if the tech got so perfect you couldn't really tell, they'd still feel like they were misleading their user base, even if they approved every one of the words coming out of their avatar's mouth. And that's the sexy demo of oh look, we can make avatars of people that look real. But I think the areas where I've seen real traction are the really unsexy behind the scenes stuff where it's oh, you've just recorded 8 hours of footage, for instance, and you can use a company like Wideframe to use AI to basically watch all 8 hours and then cut and tag what each of those clips was about, so that the human doesn't have to spend 3, 4, 5, 6 hours watching everything, cutting, okay, call this one, blah, 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 call this one, blah. Let the AI do that grunt work so that the human editor comes in and just says, okay, let's curate, this is what I want to pull together. And I think we'll continue to see more headlines about the superficial stuff that's not actually moving the needle for creators and probably just making more slop. And really the winners are going to be in this infrastructure sort of back end stuff. Even negotiating deals, right? I every now and then I get a creator deal, but we see these certainly with the athletes we work with and everything else. It's a big part of the job is just emailing, and no one gets joy from it, but it's a required part of the process, and it's exactly the kind of thing AI should make easier for these creators.
Yeah.
I agree. One of my favorite things about AI is having it mentor me, like Chris Voss never split the difference. Great. Learned so much, or Gary Vee, or just personally anything you want to learn is, I find, just super, super helpful. And then in regard to content, I would say I use AI like most creators, but mostly to help me organize my thoughts and stream of consciousness so I can actually make a blueprint and a clear plan of where I'm going instead of keeping it all in here.
And you can't kind of AI creativity, right? You have to, creators are creative people, and you can't substitute that because, and that's where the slop comes from. So it's, using it to help you organize, to kind of, to mentor and all those sorts of things, absolutely. But, I think the really successful creators are the ones that are using it like you are, rather than, kind of give me my next 10 posts, because that's not being a
you
creator,
can tell
right?
when something
You can totally tell.
feels AI.
Yeah.
That is our time today, believe it or not. But
that was quick.
Yeah, really appreciate all the candid conversation.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
This is great.
Thanks.